to the chief negotiator, Mr. Barnier.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, President. Ladies and gentlemen, in this very important debate, I, President Juncker, and Mr Katainen have all listened very carefully to what you have to say, and I would like to say a few words, and I'd like to thank you, of course, Mr President. At the invitation of President Donald Tusk, who I'd like to thank personally, I once again took part in the debate at the European Council that we're talking about this morning. And I can bear testimony once again on this very extraordinary negotiations on Brexit. Once again, we saw the responsibility that is incumbent upon every European leader around that table. They are, objectively speaking, responsible for the decisions they make and the way they work in these discussions. Around 2 years ago now, President Juncker and President Tusk endowed this task upon me, that is, to lead these negotiations, of course, with the support of the European Parliament. For 2 years now, ladies and gentlemen, I, like you, and this was the main point the Parliament wanted to focus on, I have always thought that the question of ensuring the rights of citizens had to be a priority for us. As Guy Verhofstadt and Manfred Weber, Mr Gualtieri, Mr Bullmann and Gabi Zimmer mentioned, as well as others. And this priority of citizens' rights, we've got 4.5 million citizens living and working in the European Union who, Mr Farage, contribute to the economy of your country. 1.5 British citizens live and work in one of the other countries of the European Union, and ensuring the rights of these citizens, as President Tusk has said, will, under any circumstances, under any agreement, or under the circumstances that we would not like to see, but for which we are preparing a no deal, Mr Verhofstadt, this will remain a priority, and we will find a way to guarantee the rights of these citizens. For 2 years, we and I have been working with the same level of respect for the United Kingdom. I admire your country, ladies and gentlemen, and I say that very often. I admire it for its history, for its culture, a certain number of great men and women who have led it in history, without forgetting, of course, the solidarity that you showed in our gravest hours in the 21st century, the solidarity you showed with us. And it is in this atmosphere of respect that we are working. And Mr Farage, when I say respect, I mean the respect of the sovereign decision of the British citizens, the majority of British citizens. And we respect that decision, although we regret it. And we are doing everything we can, patiently, rigorously, conscientiously, methodically. For 2 years, that's what we've been doing. Mr Farage, no one in Brussels is trying to steal Brexit from you. No one is trying to undo the vote put to the British people. But it is not Brussels that decided that the UK would leave the European Union. You are the ones who made that choice, and you are the ones who have to take your responsibility and to face up to the consequences of that decision, no one else. So, for 2 years, in this atmosphere of respect, we have been taking a number of decisions. And I'd like to say to Mr Legutko, who is not here to listen, unfortunately, that at no point over the past 2 years has my attitude, has our attitude shown the least will to try and retaliate against the United Kingdom, to try and humiliate them. For 2 years now, to President McGuinness, who presided earlier, to Mr Nicholson, I am always very interested to hear what you have to say, Mr Nicholson. Mr Anderson, Ms Dodd. For 2 years, we have been patiently looking for specific and operational solutions to the most serious problems created by Brexit. And of course, these can be found in Ireland. The risks to the peace and stability of this island, to which we have been contributing over the past 20 years through the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, we're trying to preserve that. That's what we're doing, nothing else.
the no deal. In all scenarios, the Good Friday Agreement will continue to apply. The United Kingdom will remain a co-guarantor of that agreement and is expected to uphold it in spirit and in letter. The Commission is ready to make additional resources available to Ireland, technical and financial, to address any additional challenges. Donc le respect du Good Friday Agreement restera la ligne.
So the respect of the Good Friday Agreement will remain the line to follow. There will be no hard border. Because, of course, we have to respect the single market as well, our single market. But it's also out of respect of the British internal market, Mr Farage. There are going to have to be checks carried out somewhere. And that's what we're talking about here. For 2 years now, we've been working on these negotiations, and they have always been rather negative. There is no added value to Brexit. No one, not even Mr Farage, would be able to demonstrate the added value of Brexit. No one. It's a negative negotiation. It's a lose-lose situation. And as such, we must intelligently find a solution that limits the damage caused by this decision, and to do that as soon as possible. And because, Ms Rodriguez, you said something very important, there is so much to do outside of Brexit on the very positive agenda that President Tusk and President Katainen will talk about later. That's what counts. And in that positive agenda, there is, of course, place, other than the divorce that we want to be as early as possible, there is a very important place in this positive agenda for constructing what is even more important with the United Kingdom, and that is a strong and long-lasting relationship with a great country which, under any circumstances, will remain a friend, an ally and a partner. The decision taken by the European Council, by way of conclusion now, was a very important decision in order to face up to the situation, the unforeseeable circumstances in the Chamber of Commons. And the decision was to show the will of the Europeans for the United Kingdom to take its own decisions and to shoulder its own responsibilities. It is up to Britain to decide, one way or another. That is what was decided by the European Council with this set of two deadlines, either May or April. It was to open the possibility to the United Kingdom to shoulder its responsibility. It is now over to this country to decide how to shoulder that responsibility and to choose what it wants for its future, and ultimately to bear the consequences of the decisions that it has taken. And because, ladies and gentlemen, these negotiations are not trade negotiations. It's not bargaining that's going on here. We're not having two sides make concessions. We've never worked in that spirit. It is an exit process. The United Kingdom is leaving the EU. It wants to leave the EU. That means it wants to leave the customs union, the single market, and it will bear the consequences of that. But of course, as President Tusk said, it can still stay. Anything is possible up until the 11th of April. But this choice has consequences. And the United Kingdom must bear those consequences. It must take responsibility, and it must remain sovereign in all of this. And this is the possibility that is opened up by the decision made by the European Council. Thank you.